Sadly, it's our last episode of the 2020 to 2021 season. As painful as it will be to say goodbye till next year, or at least the draft and the announcement of next year's schedule show up, we'll recap the loss against the Bucs this weekend, check in with your listener feedback, and talk about our plans for the time you'll hear from us next, all on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Wayne Henderson from MediaVoiceovers.com here, and this is the Season 10 finale episode of your Packers Fan Podcast. And like so many TV shows that have end-of-the-season cliffhangers, this season kind of ended on a cliffhanger of sorts for all of us as well. And before we dig in, Scott, I just want to thank you for being a part of the show this season. We had lots of fun. We had shenanigans, balderdash, falderall, and a lot of Go Pack Go.
Well, thank you very much, Wayne, for having me. It's been a pleasure completing this second season that I've been involved with the Packers Fan Podcast, but congratulations on 10 seasons yourself. It's been an honor to be a part of this these last 2 years with you, and I look forward to hopefully joining you again next year for a third year, but I guess I'll have to wait for the contract to come in the mail. I'm Scott Clark from The Gaming Outsider, and on episode 225, we're going to be talking about all kinds of things, but boy, I was looking forward to talking about our trip to Tampa this week. Sadly, the road ends here for the Packers, but maybe third time's the charm for Coach LaFleur. We'll have to see. This week on the Packers Fan Podcast, let's talk about that devastating loss to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
We'll also share your voicemails, email, and other feedback. And Sir Troy will be checking in later in the show to take an early look at Packers free agents. But let's visit the elephant in the room. That game yesterday.
Man, I bet the listeners can just hear it in our voices right now because we're usually coming out the gate, just high energy. But we're both a little depressed today. It was a very sad day at work, needless to say.
Yeah, and they say that this type of thing can be cathartic and misery loves company, and it's not all going to be a downer in this episode, but we have to do what we have to do. It hasn't even been barely 24 hours yet, and it is what it is because our hopes were very high. I
agree.
There were highlights. It was great to see Marquez Valdez-Scantling coming up big in the game. Listener Andre from LA said last week that he needed MVS to fill that Donald Driver, Randall Cobb role in this game, and I'd say that he did in flying colors.
Absolutely. I don't think I remember him dropping a pass. I'm sure it's possible that he did. But he was just coming through in the clutch on multiple occasions. Very cool to see his name just over and over again in key plays. That was awesome. Also, my boy Kenny Clark made his presence known. It seemed like we were hearing his name on almost every defensive series. It was just over and over again, whether it be a sack or a tackle. It was really great. I also just love how Kenny gets so pumped up and excited, but he never comes across as cocky. You know how some players, they do the whole when they're on offense and they do the point like, yes, sir, that was a first down. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It never comes across that way with Kenny. He just seems just genuinely pumped, and I love to see that.
And that is very refreshing indeed. And Jair Alexander getting 2 of the 3 interceptions. Man, he was in the right place at the right time. And and then
they were kind of gift wrapped, let's be honest.
Hey, you still got to catch it. And to say that our offense failed to do anything with those particular opportunities is an understatement. But, hey, you can't get the opportunity without Jair doing his thing.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how many people are blaming the defense for this loss because I feel like the defense really did step up. Yes, there were way too many third down conversions by Tampa Bay. That was one of the most frustrating things, and we'll get there. But the defense looked decent, at least on the secondary side. They were the passes. There were obviously completed passes, but it was well covered, and they sure gave the offense plenty of opportunities. We just didn't capitalize on them.
Not this time. Oh well.
Nope. Also, it was kind of cool to see Dylan fill in the role since Jones had a minor injury and was sidelined. He wasn't nearly as explosive as Aaron Jones usually is, but he definitely made some key plays. I am really looking forward to seeing what he does next season. I don't know who of the three is going to stick around, especially with the salary caps dropping. this season or next season, but man, he's a beast. He just plows through that middle, and there was one play where I thought he was down for sure. He kind of palmed the turf and then just kept going and turned like a nothing play into 7 yards, which is exactly what you want to see out of that kind of back.
Yeah, I think A.J. Dillon's definitely going to make a huge improvement next season. This season he was a rookie, and like you mentioned on the show last week or the week before, he didn't get much work until later in the season because we already had the other guys. But
plus he had some COVID issues, I believe, as well.
Early on, he did have that as well, and so he'll get a lot more work. He'll get a lot more experience, and he'll get a lot more opportunities. And, with rookies, in college, their season would have been over about a month or so ago in most cases. So playing this late into January is like, what? But
right.
There was, like you alluded to, Scott, there was some bad tackling and bad down the field coverage on defense. There's not all that much more we can say about it.
Well, especially because we got so lucky. There were so many drop balls by the Tampa Bay receivers. We got so lucky. I was like, oh, thank God he dropped that pass. Thank God he dropped that pass. Thank God he dropped that pass. And then on top of that, they ran over us as well. Their running game and passing game was just on point all around. And then with about 2.5 minutes in the game, after 2 forced attempts into the end zone that didn't work, Rodgers looked like he had a chance to just run it in himself, but didn't. And then we settled for a field goal. How do you feel about that series of events there, Wayne?
On one hand, it just seems like we could have done so much more. On the other hand, it's one of those woulda, shoulda, couldas. Like Aaron Rodgers said in the post-game press conference, he didn't decide to run it in, one, because he thought the defender was closing in on him fast enough to catch him, and so it may not have worked anyway. We'll never know. And plus, kind of miscommunication or low communication with Coach LaFleur. He didn't necessarily know that if he didn't make that touchdown or that first down, that we were going to kick the field goal and not go for it on fourth down. So it was just a breakdown of all sorts of things. What do you think?
I was very confused by that play call, especially the fourth down, because LaFleur has been aggressive as hell all season, especially with fourth down conversions or attempts. This seemed like the time where you really want to go for it, because in my mind, if we had scored a touchdown there and got a 2-point conversion, again, that's a couple of big ifs. I get it. But if we had done that, then we would have tied the game, and then we would be defending against Brady to do anything to outright win the game, and we could have gone into overtime. Instead, we decided to kick a field goal, still be down by 5 points, which is going to require us to get another touchdown, and then we're just playing catch-up at that point and hoping that Brady's not going to get a first down or two in 2.5 minutes. This is Tom Brady, Mr. Fourth Quarter himself. I was very confused by that play call. I feel like you got nothing to lose at that point. Get it in the end zone, get the 2-point conversion, and then stand your ground and go into overtime and roll the dice there.
That could have been a whole different ball game.
It really could have.
It's so hard to get to the NFC Championship game and then to just have it all stripped away by, some spotty play calling, some terrible officiating, some bad defensive plays, as well as just some good old-fashioned missed opportunities. It's just heartbreaking. I know it's a gut-wrenching loss, but some of the Packers fans' reactions that I've seen online are just mind-boggling, Scott. People saying, fire LaFleur. I go, come on, man. One of the first coaches ever to make it 13-3 his first 2 seasons and the championship game his first 2 seasons. Fire LaFleur. Hashtag overreaction. There were just a lot of other nonsensical comments all over the place. I know it's frustrating. This one hurts. It's going to hurt for a while. And doesn't it seem like it hurts more when it was so close? Just 5 points. We really had a chance this season. Last season in the championship game, it hurt. But why does it seem like it hurts more this time?
I think because we felt very confident that we had a chance. It felt like a grudge match game. It felt like our time to shine. The players and the camaraderie in the locker room, it just felt like this was our season. We all wanted Rodgers to have that second NFC Championship win. It's insane to me that Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, has one Super Bowl win. It's just crazy to me. And, we got question marks about what's going to happen with him next. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but it's got to be so frustrating. I can't believe a quarterback that good has one trophy under his belt. It's insane to me.
It's one of those things that takes the whole team, and it is mind-boggling. But, look, on the other hand, we've got Trent Dilfer, not necessarily regarded as one of the all-time great quarterbacks, and he has a Super Bowl trophy. Dan Marino, considered one of the all-time greats, does not have a Super Bowl ring.
Right.
It just takes the team, and that's the way it is.
Right. And it was kind of interesting. There was no laundry on the field for, I feel like, the entire first half of the game. I don't remember seeing a single penalty on anything, which is kind of crazy. And then they called one right near the end of the game when it looked like the Buccaneer was tripping and falling by himself. To be clear, I personally do not blame officiating. I think the Packers deserve to lose this game on their own. With that said, there were some calls that made me scratch my head. I think there was one where our defender had a jersey for like a split second, and the announcers were saying, well, he did miss a step because of that, and I don't know. I felt like that was the beginning of the end for us during that play. It was... If you can't tell, dear listeners, Wayne and I are a little depressed and bummed out today.
And like you said, there was hardly any flags the whole game. Let them play, and then on that one particular play, which was pretty ticky-tacky, especially since I don't think anybody could have caught that ball. It was uncatchable. So why there was a flag, I don't even know. And even former Packer great Randall Cobb tweeted, "Bullcrap! You haven't called it the whole dang game." And then they call that. So, if you got Randall Cobb willing to go out on the limb and say that, something's going to be there. A crazy season. I know it's not over for the final two teams, but I do think that there will be some sort of asterisk on this whole pandemic-induced season for all of the teams. Fans, no fans, partial fans, rearranging schedules, and just crazy things.
I mean, there would have been an asterisk for us as well if we had won.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
there would be.
that goes with anything. So,
yeah, and in spite of everything else in the game, there is the lingering question, and there's screenshots that people were posting all over Twitter. Why is Buccaneer Mike Evans fist bumping an official on the sidelines?
I don't know. I think that's a little conspiracy theory-ish, but I don't know.
I'm just throwing it out there. I don't go around fist bumping I'm not in the game, but it's not just a bad look, especially when you're on a Tom Brady team, which has had history of some cheating, some proven, some not, and the officials just always, I don't know. If I was Mike Evans, I don't know, man. I would not have done that fist bump.
I think if the NFL wanted anybody in the Super Bowl this year, they probably wanted Green Bay and Kansas City, because it would have been a rematch of Super Bowl I. And that those State Farm people were probably, if there was any inside deals, they would have had their hand in paying the NFL somehow to make that happen, because they want that as well. With that said, they probably want just as much as for Brady to play in Tampa at home. Never been done before. If he pulls it off, he's going to retire this year. It's an epic way to end the season. So I get that.
Wow,
as well.
Looking on the bright side, that if he wins, he'll retire, and then we don't have to hear all the announcers slobbering over Brady. Man,
Brady. Everybody. I don't like Brady either. Don't get me wrong, but I hate him mostly because of what he's done to my team in the third and fourth quarters too many times, or things that he's pulled out of his butt in the second half when games that he should not have won. Granted, it's not just him; it's the team. I totally get that, but I do respect the guy. It's hard not to consider him the greatest of all time at this point. with the rings, with the number of postseason games he's won. It's just insane, and I'll accept it that yes, Brady is probably the greatest of all time, and if he does win the Super Bowl, well, that pretty much seals it. It's really going to be difficult to argue that.
I still have to say, look at Packer legend Bart Starr, who got 5 championships in 6 years. I mean, granted, Brady in total has more rings, but he didn't do it in just 6 years' time. Bart Starr got 5 championships, and he called his own plays, and quarterbacks were not protected to the degree they are these days. I just think that has to be weighted in there, and that's just my story, and I'm going to stick to that as well.
It's also a different game back then, man. Let's be honest. It was a completely different game.
But if we didn't have that game back then, we wouldn't have the game that we have today. I'm also going to address briefly this whole home field advantage in the Super Bowl. You know, about half the teams in the NFL never have been considered to host a Super Bowl. The Green Bay Packers, even the Chicago Bears, you know, and so a lot of the other. So what?
Yeah, I agree. If the people want to go, they're going to go. They're going to make it happen.
If Lambeau Field would have been in the rotation for Super Bowl stadiums over the years, the Packers probably would have had at least one home field advantage Super Bowl and probably would have won it. So woulda, coulda, shoulda, we'll never know, but I don't put all that much weight on the fact, you know, there's so many Super Bowls played in Florida. Big deal.
Go, Pod, go! Go, Pod, go! Vince Lombardi once said he never lost a game. He only ran out of time. It felt like that today. Disappointing loss, but again, a great year. I mean, it sucks. I know it sucks for everybody, but only one team wins at the end of the year, and you know, it looks like we lost to the GOAT. I mean, this must be what the Knicks feel like every year. But it's disappointing. I'm not going to talk about how bad King played, or, you know, I'd rather talk about, you know what, the defense showed up. Gave us 3 second-half interceptions. They did a great job. We left a bunch of points on the field. We didn't get pushed. We settled for a field goal early in the first half. Through that interception, I can't believe we gave up that touchdown. But it was a great year. I look forward to next year. When we win, it'll make it that much sweeter. I love the podcast, love the team, love the Packer Fan Podcast community. I look forward to next year. I hate Brady. No, I respect Brady. Go, Pack, go, Andre in L.A. Go, Pack, go!
Awesome to hear from you, Andre. All season, bringing great voicemails, great Go Pack Goes, and everything else. And thank you so much for sharing that great Vince Lombardi quote about how he never lost a game, just time ran out. You know, if that game would have been a whole nother quarter, who knows? No, I'm serious. But, you know, I guess that's why they do have a timer going up. And yes, when we do win this thing, Andre, it is going to be that much sweeter. And just imagine, I believe the Super Bowl next year is in L.A. If the Packers go to the Super Bowl next year, we got to find a way to go down there and at least tailgate.
Yeah, if it takes LaFleur 3 years to make it there, they'll be singing his praises next season. So I'm trying to pull a Wayne and be as optimistic as possible.
Hey, Wayne and Scott, Troy Heinritz here. Super fan and former host of the Packers Fan Podcast. Just wanted to call in and weigh in on feelings, I guess, today, because where it doesn't feel like 2014, where we were literally one onside kick away, it definitely feels different. It feels like an end of an era, time running out, things of that nature that just, I don't know. I was pretty emotional last night after the game, and I just couldn't really figure out why. And I don't know why. And I think it's probably because a lot has to do with how we proceed going forward. And then I start to look at a bunch of things that kind of perked me back up a little bit. When you think about Matt LaFleur and his current record of being whatever is 28-8 with the playoffs, and the fact that he went to 2 NFC Championship games in his first 2 years as a head coach. Holmgren didn't do that. McCarthy didn't do that. Lombardi didn't even do that. So I think that there's just a lot of Andy Reid didn't even do that. There's just a lot of positives I think that we should be able to take away from this game. And you can go back and look at the field goal choice at the end of the game. You can also go back and look at why Rodgers didn't run it instead of throwing it to Devontae in coverage. There's a lot of like, what if. But at the end of the day, when you think about, a 30-some-year-old quarterback, almost 40, and the season he was able to put up, if you look at depth of our offensive line and how we did the things we did on the offensive line with all the people that were injured this year, if you look at 3 stellar running backs in the backfield, if you look at just LaFleur and Rodgers and all the, oh my gosh, is he going to be able to manage Rodgers and all this other conversation and the bromance that's formed between the two of them. I think these are just 2 competitive guys that are going to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they need to figure out to fix for next year. And man, if we can go Super Bowl next year, even 19-0 next year, and Rodgers sails off into the sunset next year, that'd be fantastic, right? I don't think this is the end of the Packers. I don't think this is the end of the Rodgers journey. I don't think Rodgers is going anywhere. I think there's a lot of positives to be taken from this second year under LaFleur. Overall, it just hurts right now, coming off of the loss, especially against Tom Brady. But he is the GOAT. I mean, you have to say what you have to say about him, whether you think he has refs in his back pocket or Inflategate or all that other stuff. But he has gotten there, was it 10 times now? That's impressive. It's hard to do. And I think that even makes him better than Michael Jordan for the sport. So just keep your head up, and we'll have more fun next year when we go Pack Go once again.
Thanks so much, Troy. Boy, I know Troy personally, and I don't think I've ever heard him sound so down and in the dumps as he did on that voicemail. But you can feel the tension and depression in the room all around here. But I still like, even though we're all upset, he was still managed to be a little bit positive and talk about next season. I love the 19-0. That's ambitious. That's definitely ambitious, but it would be amazing. Come out the gate and say, we're not done yet. I don't think Rodgers is done yet either. I really don't. I think Brady's going for his off in the sunset moment in 2 weeks. I think Rodgers wants to end on a high note as well. So I think we'll see much more of him as well.
I like the sound of 19-0, Sir Troy. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I know Aaron Rodgers isn't done. He's definitely not done. And he definitely does not want to retire the same year as Tom Brady and go into the Hall of Fame with Tom Brady. And then, Tom Brady will probably get to have the closing speech, and Aaron Rodgers will have to be the opening act or whatever. So that ain't going to happen. So there's lots of reasons, but I do agree with what Troy said in some ways, it feels like this could be an end of an era of sorts.
Mm-hmm. We're getting there. Jordan Love's going to have to step up one of these years, right?
Hey, Wayne. Hey, Scott. All right, from Texas. Oh, man, I'm a little stunned here. I don't know. There's so much talk about, maybe Rodgers should, he had a running lane towards, to the end zone. Maybe he could have beaten the defender to the corner. Maybe they should have gone for it on 4th down. I don't know. I mean, it's like LaFleur said. I mean, if it works, it's great. But if it doesn't, immediate regret. But I don't know. We had some, minor errors, and can't afford to do that against Tom Brady. And it is what it is. The Buccaneers defense, man, they played a really great game. The Packers defense also played a great game. So, but it just came down to not taking advantage of the several stops that the Packers defense had, and again goes back to the Buccaneers defense playing really tough. But oh man, we'll see how it goes. I guess just hit the off season again and see what happens next year. I really hope that Aaron Rodgers sticks around and comes back, because I mean he's still at the top of his game. Let me know what you guys think. And regardless, go Pack, go.
Art in Texas, thanks again for giving us a call at 920-3PACK-GO. Stunned, like many of us. And yes, there's more talk about that possible running lane. That's going to be examined a lot. Here we go into the off season. And like Art said, it is what it is in the end. And also great to see that Art also noticing that the Packers defense was starting to show up. Things are happening.
Just not on third down.
Well, at least was it mostly the second quarter? I don't know. There was a period where the third downs were really working for the Buccaneers, but it wasn't the entire game. It was just a lot of the game.
Yes.
I don't even know what to say about this game. I'm proud of our defense. Our defense did great. You don't see Brady get 3 interceptions in one game. But the constantly not calling holding calls or jersey calls, one of which the guy pulled on the jersey and then immediately, quote-unquote, picks Rodgers, only to give them a first down in the last 90 seconds, that's bull. Still a Packers fan, still proud of my team, and I'm looking forward to next season, but I'm not happy with this. It wasn't right.
Thank you, Mr. Caller. I don't recognize your voice, and we didn't get your name, but appreciate the call. Yeah, that's one thing we didn't really... We talked about Jair Alexander's 2 interceptions, but we did pick off Brady 3 times in that game, which was pretty cool. The missed holding calls were frustrating, and I'm the kind of guy that does not even pick up on those holding calls a lot. I don't understand how refs see that as often as they do. You see a flag and you just assume it's holding because I didn't see it, but the ref did, and then you play it and you say, oh yeah, I guess that was holding. But there was a couple on this game where I was like, that was clearly a holding call, and I saw it live in the moment, and it should have been called, and it didn't. But yeah, Mr. Caller, we're very proud of this team too. 13-3, 2 seasons in a row. I believe that was the record last year as well, wasn't it, Wayne?
Oh yeah. And
for a first-year head coach, the Packers are poised for greatness. We may not have came away with the trophy this year, but I'm still very proud of this team and proud to call myself a Packers fan.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that we didn't catch your name on the call, but we do appreciate your call. Next thing you know, the schedule's going to be released, and we'll talk about that and the NFL draft, however that's going to happen. And then the next thing you know, we'll be back at it, and hopefully closer to normal with hopefully COVID getting a little more under control. I think now's a good time to say, go Pack, go, Scott.
Go Pack, go.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Dan from Indy. I don't even know what to say. This is probably going to sound like most voicemails that you have coming through, but I want to try to put a positive spin on this thing. Even though we lost the game, it was a spectacular season. Aaron Rodgers is going to be the MVP of the league. We went 13-3 for the second consecutive season. We went to the NFC Championship game for the second consecutive season. So the fact that the officiating crew couldn't find their butts with a 10,000 lumen flashlight obviously doesn't matter because the Bucs are going to the Super Bowl. I have a lot of things to say on that, but I'm going to try to keep it short. I'm going to try to keep it positive because no matter what happens, go Pack, go!
Go Pack, go indeed, Dan in Indy. Thank you very much for sending that in. And yes, even though we did lose the game, it was a spectacular season, and Rodgers is going to be the MVP. And the officiating, yeah, that was iffy. It was up and down, and we just want it to be consistent. Either call everything the entire game and slow the game down to a crawl because there's so many yellow flags flying, or don't call anything, including in the last 90 seconds or so of the game. Just keep it even. And prayers going out to Dan as well as for his son. Lost his ex-wife, the mother of his son, shortly after sending in that message. And prayers are with you, Dan. Hang in there.
Yeah, Dan, if there's anything that Wayne or I could do for you, please let us know. I'm so sorry for your loss. You have my condolences. That is awful, awful news.
Hey, Wayne and Scott. It's Megan.
And Pete.
We're driving home from Green Bay right now. Yeah, I mean, sure, we share the same sentiments as everyone. Heartbreaker. Feels, Aaron was saying, very abrupt, you know, like all of a sudden it's just done. And, you know, it wasn't a poor performance. There was some interesting, you know, I don't know, a little disappointed, uncharacteristic of our O-line to let Aaron get demolished again by a team that we know already did it once this year. I mean, I don't know, maybe just an off game for them, but defensively, I feel like the guys for sure deserve some props. Jair, Amos, you know, those guys were all over Kenny. The Ken thing with the Scotty Miller touchdown in the second half, or at the end of the first half, was he was chasing him, you know, but yeah, it sucks. Feel for the guys for sure. Still happy to be a fan, you know. Take some time to digest this one for sure. But can't wait for next year.
Yep. Go Pack Go. Yeah, it is, as Aaron said, gutted is the right feeling. You win the turnover battle. You're a few calls away, one in particular from you know, changing the course of the game, the outcome. So it's unfortunate to see it go down that way, but I think, you know, everyone's proud of this team and what they put into it. And next season can't get here soon enough. It's a hell of a ride.
Hell of a season, hell of a team. And like Aaron was saying, the only constant in this business is change. So try not to think about all the moves and potential changes of the off season. We want to keep this team exactly as it is forever. But appreciate what we've done this year. It was very, very fun. And
work.
Yeah, milestone mania. Awesome. Thanks for doing the podcast. We'll miss you guys. Probably check in here and there and just tell you we miss the Packers. Go Pack Go!
Who knew that Megan and Pete had a lower energy level? That's the most depressing thing I've heard all day, is hearing Megan not yelling and screaming and hitting her head on the ceiling. And but thanks so much for the call, Megan and Pete. We really do appreciate it. It's awesome that you did go up to Green Bay. I know that's got to be a brutal drive home with that loss. But let's see, gutted is the right word. I think that pretty much sums up how we all feel. And already looking forward to next season. Let's make it happen.
And like Megan and Pete said, they especially feel bad for the guys on the team because they played their hearts out all season. So many unsung heroes. And every team, every season is a little bit different and has a slightly different personality than the year before. So this was a special one. And Megan, Pete, hopefully, you know, the next day feel a little bit better, and listening to everybody else share their thoughts. Hopefully it'll all get us turned around. And like you said, next thing you know, the season will be back and we'll be ready.
Sounds good. Hugs to you guys. We'll see you next season. We did put a poll on our Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com and also on Twitter. Our handle there is at PackersFanPod. The question this week was, what are your predictions for Matt LaFleur's third year as head coach? The choices we gave were not making the playoffs, wild card, losing the playoffs, or Super Bowl baby. Now, we did have some write-in votes as well. Somebody said LaFleur losing his job as head coach, and then somebody else did a write-in vote that said, ask the refs. Quite a bit there as well. So what about you, Wayne? Where do you think we're going to land next season?
Super Bowl, baby! Go Pack, go! Yeah,
you know what, Wayne?
What?
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say that next season, Green Bay's going all the way.
I love the sound of that, Scott.
And I'm not just being Pollyanna. I think there's a definite chance they're going to learn from their mistakes this season, and we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, if anybody thinks Aaron Rodgers had a chip on his shoulder this season.
Yeah, right?
How'd the votes shake out? The people that voted, did the write-in votes get any votes?
They did, actually. Shockingly, about 25% of the votes came for the write-ins, which is interesting. But 3% said not making the playoffs. 6% said wild card. Half of everybody said lose in the playoffs, which I figured was going to be a popular answer. It's a safe bet. 16% said Super Bowl, baby. 3% said write-in vote for LaFleur losing his job as head coach. And 22% said ask the refs. So we have a lot of bitter Packer fans out there. But to be clear, again, Wayne, I'm not blaming the officiating. I want it on record.
It's on record. I'm looking at my recorder right now. It's recording. It's on the record.
What did the community have to say about the poll?
Some of the comments that we got, Scott Bors said, until he wins the big game, the word around the league is that he is just a good regular season coach. Also, I'm not the one that thinks that. It's just the word around the league. Sir Troy, like you mentioned earlier, wanted to echo 19-0 next year.
Yeah, 19-0. Good regular season coach. Come on. That's just ridiculous. Don also chimed in and said, unless we make some major changes, we will not make the Super Bowl. Well, yeah, I mean, there's going to be changes. There's changes every season. We need to tighten things up and try to keep some of those key players that helped us get as far as we did this season. David says, unfortunately, this coming year is one of the hardest years to take an educated guess how a team will do. With a cap going down to $45 million, there's going to be a lot of turnover for all teams, except maybe a couple. And that is true as well.
And what's interesting is, until this week, it's the first I heard of the cap going down. I just assumed it was going to go up again and give everybody extra room. That changes everything, that's for sure.
I imagine the NFL is not making quite as much money as they were without all those cheeks in the seats, right?
True.
So they got to make up that money somewhere. Also, we had some comments from the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group. First off, superfan Aaron Peterson sure had a provocative post in the Facebook group. He said, did you watch the Rodgers post game? Bets on if he demands a trade this offseason. I don't know. I don't agree with that at all, but Zach from the group definitely did. He said, I'm calling it now. Rodgers will be either a Colt, Texan, or a Patriot. If he pulls a Brett Favre, I'm gonna be really angry. David also replied, unlikely. That didn't seem like a goodbye to Green Bay. It was a goodbye to the people not likely to be back. He understands that there's always turnover, but this coming year figures to be a year with a lot of changes, and he recognizes that.
I like that. Tyler added, can't blame him, honestly. He plays his heart out, and the defense just kind of screws the pooch. Yes, they intercepted Brady 3 times, but all those third and longs that seem to be converted really changes the flow of the game and puts way too much pressure on the offense to perform. And David also posted this unrelated great post. I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. But most of all, I'm proud of what this team was able to do. Analysts picked them to regress. LaFleur and Rodgers couldn't get along, supposedly. Picked to be second or third in our own division, and none of that came true. First in the division, number 1 seed in the NFC, and the offense that hummed along for the majority of the season. Next year brings a lot of uncertainty, and even though we didn't make it to the Super Bowl, I'm glad this team did what it did, and I'm proud to be a Packers fan. Go, Pack, go.
Go, Pack, go indeed. And just to back up on Tyler's comment as well, it seems like so many people are blaming the defense. I think the bigger culprit in this game was the offensive line that gave Rodgers no time back there. How many times was he sacked? I want to say 4.
I lost fingers to count on.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. We didn't get sacked at all against the number 1 defense in the league, and then Tampa comes in and just rolls all over us. So I'm more upset with the offensive line than the defense. Yes, those third downs were just atrocious, but that was one quarter, or that's where they were primarily focused, was that one quarter.
Yeah, and the fact that we were able to do as well as we did on the offensive line after David Bakhtiari went down was great, but I think our luck ran out on that particular gamble.
I agree. Got some emails as well. First one says, Wayne and Scott, I want to make sure that I get this nice part out of the way. And I'm sure it has been mentioned several times in the podcast, but I would like to extend my sympathies to the family and friends of former Packers general manager, the late Ted Thompson, who was the general manager for the Packers from 2005 to 2017, and almost his entire time as an executive was with the Packers, except for when he was the VP of football operations for the Seattle Seahawks from 2000 to 2004. Rest in peace, Ted Thompson. You will be missed. And at this point, this is where he writes in all caps. I will not be shouting it, but just know that he's very, very angry. And now a very angry Stephen Verheeren checking in from Palace Park, Illinois, where the Green Bay Packers have turned into the Bears. What inspired you to play what I would expect from the Bears, to play uninspired football? We had to delete some expletives in there. Oh, and then more expletives deleted. And who would have thought more expletives deleted? So Stephen has a mouth on him. Anyway, is this a legacy of the Green Bay Packers under Matt LaFleur? 2 straight years they made it to the playoffs and to the NFC Championship, and lose it 2 straight years to 2 teams that they lost to coming out of the bye week. When Aaron Rodgers does retire, would he be deserving to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first ballot? I'm not even worried about Wayne thinking I'm harsh this week. I'm going to miss hearing new episodes of the Packers Fan Podcast and hearing new episodes with the energy of Andre from LA, Megan and Pete, along with all the other callers. I figure the next time we will get a Packers Fan Podcast again is sometime with either one or both the NFL Draft and the schedule release for the 2021 season. Okay, I'm officially checking out for now and have to say it. We have to look forward to the season finale of the Packers Fan Podcast. Oh, and go Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to be rooting for them in their Super Bowl once again. Stephen Verheeren. Yeah, I think most of the country is going to be rooting for Kansas City at this point, Stephen. So
for various reasons.
Yes.
And yes, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Of course he is.
Guaranteed. But Stephen did make an interesting point that the teams we lost to in the playoffs were the same teams that we lost to coming out of our bye weeks the past 2 years.
I tell you, bye weeks are our curse, man. I want those at the beginning of the season, get them out of the way so we don't have to worry about them anymore.
And hopefully the team we play after the bye week is somebody there's no chance we're going to face in the playoffs.
Yes, thank you.
Just to be on the safe side. Hey, Wayne and Scott, this is CCR from Green Bay, Wisconsin. What a crazy season. First off, I want to say congratulations to the Packers. You guys did an amazing job this year. And Coach LaFleur, thank you for taking us to another NFC Championship. Although we lost, and it was very disappointing to see all those missed opportunities we had. 2 interceptions that didn't go anywhere. Mike Evans from the Buccaneers fist bumping the official. Like, why is he doing that? We gave up 5 sacks.
5 sacks, not 4.
It seemed like 12. But, well, anyway, Packer family, until next year, go Pack, go. Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher.
Also, shout out to Caleb. I believe he showed up on the podcast that we guested on this past week. Was it? Did he not?
Yes, he was one of those that appeared in the chat room when we were on the Broad Street South Sports Talk video show on YouTube and Facebook Live. So thanks for coming into the chat. And the others, we couldn't really respond to the chat, but we could see it scrolling by.
Yes. We got another email from Jared who said, immediately upon ending the game, I definitely had to channel my inner Seinfeld. I was speechless. I had no speech. And then, slowly, as I drifted in and out of the various stages of grief, I had to just lay out the facts. 1. Rodgers and Tay left a couple of scores on the field, one being the dropped TD pass by Tay, the other when Rodgers had open field on 3rd down. Despite that, it wasn't nearly as bad as number 2. Complete abandonment of the run game in the red zone. This was infuriating. LaFleur called some solid drives down the field, utilizing the run and pass in somewhat different balance, only to then call nothing but pass plays to Adams in the red zone. All the while, Dillon and Williams were having solid days on the ground. At one point, Dillon pushing through as 4 defenders were trying to tackle him. I don't get those decisions. And this is the one area of weakness with LaFleur despite all of his success. He needs to calm down in close games like this and stick to the plan. 3. Offensive line play was atrocious. I don't care who the quarterback is. It's a miracle Rodgers even made anything happen tonight with how much that pass rush was in his face. Deep breath. It was a rough go. All of that, and there was still some competitive football. The defense gave us so many opportunities, and while what I've mentioned contributed to not capitalizing on those turnovers, I still do truly believe at the same time that the role of the refs cannot be ignored in this loss. 1 missed DPI I can live with, maybe even 2. But 5 no-call defensive PIs against the Bucs is a heck of a lot of penalty yards. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I can go on, but I'm proud the Packers got to the conference championship for a second year in a row. Who knows what the team looks like next year, but I'll always take competitive playoff football year after year than boom/bust cycles of playoff runs. Go Pack Go. Love you guys. Take care. Jared. Thanks so much for the email, Jared. Really do appreciate it. And thank you to everybody, as always, for the calls, emails, comments, and support. If you'd like to join the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community and be part of the conversation, head over to packerscommunity.com. Even during the off season, we'd love to hear from you. As for our score predictions, it didn't really matter this week because, number one, the wager of fun is over. And number two, Wayne and I both picked Green Bay to win. So I didn't even calculate the differential because it really doesn't matter.
You're right. It doesn't matter. And as far as a wager, fun. There was no fun in knowing that the season's over. Well, we'll be back.
For sure. Well, as we wrap things up, I do want to remind you guys, if you love video games as much as I do, video games, those other games that we can still continue to play even after football season is over, I do have another podcast called The Gaming Outsider where we chat about my favorite hobby each week. And this week we're talking about Lego games. Those ones where they take the characters from Star Wars and Indiana Jones and let you run around as little Lego people.
Everything is awesome.
There you go. And we're talking about the franchises that we'd like to see get the plastic treatment with a bit of humor thrown at it. Really looking forward to that episode and hope you'll check it out. Our website is thegamingoutsider.com. Also, we've got Zach, one of my co-hosts. We just published his top 10 video games of 2020, which is now available on the site as well. And you can listen to our show at the same place you listen to this fine show.
And can you give us a little teaser? Is the Ghost of Tsushima in the top 10?
Yes, it's in the top 10. It was our number one game overall between all three of us or four of us. So,
okay.
That is in that list for sure.
Just making sure. For myself, behind the mic, no other podcasts really happening right now between now and when the Packers release the schedule or do the draft, unless something crazy happens in the Packers news, like we find out that Aaron Rodgers is now a Los Angeles Ram or something like that. We will have to have a special emergency episode. But other than that, I'll be doing some voiceovers. And if you're launching a podcast or need any professional voiceovers for your website, training videos, anything like that, reach out, mediavoiceovers.com. All right, now we've got a special segment here with Sir Troy Heinritz, who was on the show for many, many years. We couldn't work out the scheduling where we could all three be on at the same time, but as we wrap up this season, Troy wanted to make sure that we could look towards the future of the Green Bay Packers. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up, Sir Troy Heinritz.
What? Well, no, I thought that would be a good thing to come in here because, there was all this talk yesterday about, I don't know what's going to happen, even for me. And I mean, the amount of people in sports media today, oh my gosh, it was like the top story. It was the news of where's Aaron Rodgers going to go? Is Aaron Rodgers going to go to the Colts? Is Aaron Rodgers going to go to Pittsburgh? Is Aaron Rodgers? I was like, no, Aaron Rodgers is staying put. He's got 3 more years on his contract.
Yeah, it was quite epic, and we did hear some voicemails earlier in the Packers Fan Podcast episode touching on it as well. There's even another hot rumor of him going to the Rams. So, like you said, I think he's staying.
I think he's staying as well because, and I think this is something that's very important and why I came in, since you all know me from years past. I'm like the stats and the numbers guy and everything. And there's a big difference that's happening with the 2021 NFL season. Much like many of you, I'm sure you have suffered in some way or another with your employment or potential raises or bonuses or things of that nature. And it comes to the fallout of the global corona pandemic that we are currently facing. And that has not usurped the NFL in any way, shape, or form. So this year, the salary cap for 2020 was in the around 190 million to 200 million in that range. I don't remember the exact figure. But what's happening for 2021 is that because of the reduction in profits because of, no fans in the stands, etc. Things are a little bit different for 2021, and we're actually moving backwards in the amount of cap that will be part of the 2021 season to the tune of around 175 bills. So what does that mean? It means that people's contracts that are up that would usually expect a pretty nice salary increase may not be getting the salary increase that they wanted, or they're going to go to other teams that have more cap room in order to get the salary increase that they wanted.
Uh-oh. I don't like the sound of that. Isn't it strange after all these years of the salary cap going up a little bit more, that just something like this pandemic makes it go back down? I guess the Packers and other NFL teams are not receiving thousands of stimulus checks, huh?
I guess not. No. And actually, it's kind of like this makes sense because when they still make a crap ton of money, and it's ridiculous compared to people that make not even $15 an hour at this point. But the fact that they're actually respecting the fact that they have to actually reduce salaries because of the situation that's going on, I think that's a testament to how the salary cap was intended to work, right? Versus, like, I'm sure baseball is going to throw a whole crap ton of money at people, just like they always do.
Right.
And the Yankees and all the Red Sox and all the usual players, the Dodgers, will all still be the same people. But it's what keeps the NFL interesting, is to have every team only be able to spend X amount of money in order to draft the field of 53 in order to make this happen every year. I think what the challenge for the Packers is the number of unrestricted free agents this year, and especially unrestricted free agents at key positions when you look at what we have to get done in order to make things happen. I think is where Aaron's comments were really more directed than it was at Aaron not wanting to play for the Packers anymore. It was really more of, he's got to understand like how he moves forward with a new team next year, because the team that's been here for the 2-13-3 seasons is going to be dismantled. I mean, there's just no way around it. There are pieces that will no longer be here in 2021. And because of that, it's going to be a whole different ball game. Now, can they still operate and get back to the promised land in another NFC Championship, which is not where you lose against the Green Bay Packers, Wikipedia? So you can change that. I saw that joke today. That one was pretty funny. But it is going to be a different team next year. And I think it's going to be an interesting one to see what we're able to do as far as fielding the people that we need to keep, but then how much money do we have left over to then go get weapons that Aaron wants to go get, or pay for a high enough draft pick, because you have to obviously still cover that rookie draft contract.
Yeah. And you are definitely the numbers guy. And I guess it is a piece of reality that we have to look at, because this free agency stuff's going to come into play pretty darn quick, long before we get the schedule and the NFL draft, however that's going to happen this season.
So I think probably before we get into who's who and where, just to level set for everybody, the different, what do you want to call them, definitions or classifications of free agency, because there are some different people with different spots. And I think that's really important to understand the difference. So the big one is what's called the UFA, or the unrestricted free agent. This is any player with 4 or more accrued seasons and an expired contract. So in the case of Rodgers does have 4 or more accrued seasons, but he doesn't have an expiring contract. Therefore, Rodgers is not a free agent unrestricted. He can't go anywhere. He can't even go anywhere as a restricted free agent, which is the second one, where a restricted free agent has 3 accrued seasons and an expired contract. Restricted free agents are free to negotiate and sign with any team. However, their original team can offer them one of various qualifying offers called tenders that come with the right of first refusal and or draft pick compensation. If the tender is withdrawn by the team, the RFA becomes an unrestricted free agent. In 2020 specifically, teams must submit these tenders by 4 p.m. Eastern Time on March 18th. That date will probably be about the same for the 2021 season. And so those restricted free agents basically have there's like a whole chart of like what those tenders need to be. So like if it's a first round tender, it's like a 1-year contract worth the greater of $4.6 million or 110% of the player's prior year base. So there's just a whole bunch of like things that have to happen for an RFA. So it's not like it's a done deal that they're going to go somewhere else, but it's very possible that an RFA could go to another team. Then you have what's called an exclusive rights free agent, which is any player with fewer than 3 accrued seasons and an expired contract. If his original team offers him a 1-year contract at the league minimum based on his credited seasons, the player cannot negotiate with other teams. Some exclusive free rights agents that of note in 2020 were like Gus Edwards with the Ravens and Levi Wallace with the Bills. So just some things to keep in mind, that an accrued season is used to determine a player's free agency status. In order to accrue a season, a player must have been on or should have been on full play status for at least 6 regular season games in a given season. A player under contract must report to his team's training camp on his mandatory reporting date in order to earn an accrued season. If the player holds out his services for a material period of time, he is also at risk of not accruing a season.
Oh.
So even if Rodgers was like, you guys want to get me back to the promised land, you have to go do stuff. I'm going to hold out until you get me the players that I want around me and get a defense. Then he could hold out, but then Rodgers would risk not having that accrued season in order to get to the status of being an unrestricted free agent when his 4-year deal is done in 2023. So that is the definitions of unrestricted, restricted, and exclusive, and what an accrued season means. So,
quick question though. Can the ever popular franchise tag be placed on any of these categories?
That is a really great question. The exclusive franchise tag means a team will pay that player no less than the average of the top 5 salaries at the player's position, or 120% of the player's previous salary, whichever is greater. The player is not allowed to negotiate with other teams. Versus a non-exclusive franchise tag involves the same salary offer as the exclusive franchise tag, only the player can negotiate with other teams. Player's current team then can match any offer sheet coming from the other team. If the old team declines to match the offer, it gets 2 first-round picks from the other team as compensation. This is more commonly used franchise tag than the exclusive one. So let's take Aaron Jones for an example. So Aaron Jones this year is an unrestricted free agent. He can go wherever the heck he wants. The Packers could stick on him the non-exclusive franchise tag, and then he could still negotiate with other people. And then if they negotiate with other people and then they get an offer that Jones likes and the Packers don't want to match that offer, then the new team would have to give us 2 first-round picks for Jones.
Very interesting.
But of course, you can't apply, the franchise tag just to everybody.
Right. You just don't willy-nilly throw that out there. And from past history, it doesn't seem like the Packers use it very often compared to some other teams.
But it would be interesting this year because I think that this is the year that it could benefit us to do so. Because here's where we're standing, right? With all the people that are out there. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 unrestricted free agents. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 restricted free agents. And then exclusive rights free agents, there are 5. So, and when you start hearing these names, you can start to understand why Rodgers was concerned during his press conference after the game on Sunday.
Well, let's just say, Troy, that I'm very nervous to hear this list.
So let's talk about Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, both unrestricted free agents. Your backfield, gone. Just like that.
Whoa. Okay.
You have Swervin Tyler Irvin, also part of the backfield, gone, unrestricted free agent. You have Tavon Austin from the wide receiver core. You have Mercedes Lewis from the tight end position. You have Corey Linsley from the center. And then you have backup quarterback Tim Boyle is also, well, he's a restricted free agent. But Robert Tonyan is a restricted free agent, so Robert Tonyan could be gone as well.
Oh no!
So now you have 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, the center. And then that Kevin King guy. Which good luck. See you later. And it's that kind of like, well, what do you do? If you're already $20 million over the cap because of the reduction to $175 million, what are the first moves you're going to make when it comes to who do you bring back and protect, in the case of the Green Bay Packers? So if I'm looking at the list, I forgot about Lane Taylor. Lane Taylor is also an unrestricted free agent. So 2 offensive line, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. It's a feast, right? Alan Lazard is an exclusive rights free agent as well. So Alan could be up for grabs. So it's a lot to think about the dismantling of this team and what we're going to have to deal with in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, this is worse than I thought.
So to me, number one thing you do is protect the line, because you can't run the football unless you have an offensive line blocking and making holes. You also can't pass the football if you don't have an offensive line in order to protect the quarterback. So to me, I think you spend the money and you absolutely sign Corey Linsley first and foremost, right?
Makes sense.
Then I think you bring back Bobby Tonyan because he would be much cheaper and he was a very blossoming tight end, and we've been looking for a tight end forever. So I would pay Bobby Tonyan, and now the money starts to get a little bit tight.
Already?
Yeah. Who do you bring back after that, right? Tyler Ervin, you probably don't have to bring him back, and if someone picks him up, great, and if not, he might not make a team somewhere and you pick him up on a practice squad later on down the line. Mercedes has been great, but he's no spring chicken, right? So if somebody wants to pick him up, great. If not, you can pick him up on the cheap on the backside. So I don't think you extend a contract to Mercedes Lewis, especially with the way Daphne's been playing down the stretch. I think Daphne and Tonyan can handle the tight end duties, and then you pick up somebody in the draft or off of the list. As we get closer to the training camp starting. The real questions are at the running back position. Like, what do you do about Aaron Jones and what do you do about Jamal Williams? Now, Jamal Williams obviously played his heart out this year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he knew he was in a, I'm free at the end of this season. I'm going to put up numbers that's going to get me my payday, right? And then you have Aaron Jones, who's a very versatile player and had one of his best seasons of his career. And then you have Dylan, who's still sitting back there, who had also a monster back quarter of the season. So clearly he is more than capable of carrying the load. So you're not going to keep both of these guys. One of these guys is definitely going to go, right? The question is, who do you keep? Do you keep Jamal or do you keep Aaron Jones? Now you have to remember, Aaron Jones at the start of this season was offered top 5 money before the season started to extend his contract. And Aaron Jones said, no, thank you. And then went and got Drew Rosenhaus as his agent. So, Aaron Jones is looking for the payday. So if I were to execute a franchise tag, I would probably put one on Aaron Jones.
Okay.
Because I think Jamal, he could probably get a contract somewhere. They may pick him up somewhere. They might not. And you just roll the dice on Jamal. Because I think you need the offensive line first and foremost. You get Taylor, you get Linsley, you take care of Bobby Tonyan. The defense, there isn't really any big names defensively on here other than Kevin King, which after the performance that we had on Sunday, I'd be happy if he just went away. And then if he doesn't go away, you can re-sign him on the cheap, on the backside closer to camp. But everybody else is pretty much, low-level names like Malik Taylor, Tyler Lancaster, Shannon Sullivan. So there's, I think your big things you have to think about are secure the line, franchise tag Jones, and at least then you keep your core offense intact. The best offense in the league this year. I think as you go into what will be the 2021 season, and then supplant that with pick up a tight end in the draft, pick up a receiver in the draft. And then I think we should be in pretty good shape on the offensive side of the ball.
I would sure miss Jamal Williams, but I do see the numbers playing out. And I wonder if, with Aaron Jones having a new agent and already turning down that top 5 money you talked about, Troy, wow, how much of the cap is he going to take? Will he leave us much money to get Corey Linsley back and the rest of the guys you talked about, Tanyan and such?
Yeah, It is definitely not a fun offseason for Brian Gutekunst and the front office, that's for sure. But this is why Aaron said what he said. It's not that Aaron's leaving the Packers. And even if they wanted to trade Aaron to the Rams or whatever other crazy crap people have been talking about in Indianapolis or Pittsburgh or whatever else they had today on the news, he would actually cost the Packers upwards of $30 million in dead cap space. I mean, that's $30 million that you could then use on other people that you no longer can use on other people if you were to trade Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron's not going anywhere if the Packers have anything to say about it.
Oh, when you look at the numbers like that, yeah, mathematically, it would just kill the team for 5 years probably.
Yeah, when people keep saying like the Packers are holding Rodgers hostage or Rodgers is holding the Packers hostage, I mean it's a mathematical number game, and unfortunately, COVID, is gonna really impact the NFL and what happens next year with these deals, and people are gonna have to take less money. It just is what it is.
Unfortunately, they do make a lot of money. Nobody wants to make less money, but I think they can do it for the team. And they saw, these players saw how well we did this year. And I'm not playing in the NFL, but if I were Troy and I could take a cut and stay with a team that's a legitimate contender, be worth it in the long run. I would think so.
I was this close 2 years in a row. Like, I could do it again. I have maybe 1, maybe 2 more years of potential, but I think they could get there next year very easily with a couple tweaks to the defense. I'm not going to hold up the fire Mike Pettin flag, even though I was doing it probably during most of the game, because he is the last holdover from the McCarthy era for the most part. But this is the time where you reflect and you go, I hope Ted Thompson, rest his soul, passed away last week. We miss Ted. We've said on here many times, in Ted we trust. You look at some of his draft classes and Devontae, he found receivers in the second round, and he found offensive linemen in the fourth round that people would never have figured out. Ted Thompson was amazing when he was on his game. And so, I hope Goody learned what he needed to from Ted in order to keep the ship afloat for another year or two.
So what do you think's going to happen as far as the draft? I know it's still 3-4 months away. Are we going to do what everybody wanted to do last year? Grab wide receivers, a whole slew of them.
I don't think I would trade up like I did last year. That was a little bit of a shock, right? But at the same time, if you franchise tag Jones and then he goes somewhere and then you can get 2 first-round picks out of that, that puts us in pretty good spot, because if he's going somewhere, he's probably going somewhere that needs a running back that wasn't in the playoffs that gets us a high first-round pick. So, if I'm a draft person, I absolutely stick the franchise tag on Jones to keep him, because he is that valuable to the offense. He really is.
And I had no idea the list of players coming up was that extensive, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I appreciate you coming on the show and breaking down the numbers and kind of opening our eyes so that we'll see how things play out in a couple of months.
So if the Packers offer stock this year, buy a share.
I need one to match my other one up there. I need some more stock.
Yeah, so we'll definitely track a lot of this through the course of the off season, and as we get closer to free agency when it starts up in March, we'll keep you guys abreast of everything happening with the team right here on the Packers Fan Podcast.
Well, Troy, we really thank you for coming on and breaking that down, because it's going to happen. And the sooner that we're ready for it, the sooner we can see how it all plays out. And it's going to be interesting. Next year's team's going to have another new personality like they do every single year. And it's going to be fun one way or another, right?
Absolutely.
Can I get a Go Pack Go?
Go Pack Go. Thanks, Wayne. We'll see you later.
Thanks, Troy.
As we do each week, we have a value for value model here at your Packers Fan Podcast, if your budget allows it. Everything you pledge goes back into the show, helping with hosting costs, audio softwares, and the Packers Fan Podcast swag that you can get at some of the higher support levels. Details can be found at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. Got to give a huge Go Pack Go. And I'm talking about a Go Pack Go as big as the Lombardi Trophy replica in the entrance to Lambeau Field. The Packers Fan Podcast patron, Dan Dyler, for helping out the show at the Jim Ringo-inspired pledge level. Also, listener Bryant, Go Pack goes to all of you for all of your Willie Wood level Patreon support. We really do appreciate it.
Of course we do. We also appreciate and send out Go Pack Goes to our AR-12 level supporters in the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics, and some hearty Go Pack Goes to our Brett Favre level Patreon supporters, starting off with a brand new pledge at the Favre-tastic 4 level, Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast in Arizona. Thank you very much. Also, thank you for all your support, Lawrence Harvey, Jeff Summerfield, and Andre in L.A. And Go Pack Go also for the brilliant Curly Lambeau level monthly supporters, Hank Davis from the TPE network of podcasts, Remy Lavictoire, Beth Mintick, Joe Christensen, and Matt Haig. Check out all the levels and their corresponding rewards at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. Thanks again for all your support, financial and otherwise. The Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not yet affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers.
Also, please consider following us on Twitter. Our handle is @PackersFanPod. My personal handle is @GoCastScott, and Wayne's is @Wayne Henderson. And now, the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics sending out some Go Pack Goes to ease us into the long and strange offseason.
This is Dawn down here in Texas, a.k.a. Granny Cheese.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi, I'm Kim.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
Hi, I'm Lisa Montgomery, and we want to say,
Go Pack Go!